Good morning, everyone. How are you? This is Michael Gibbs, and I'm the founder and CEO of Go Cloud Careers. And I'm here with you again today to help you build your best technology career. We love to come online 2 to 3 times a week so that you can come and ask questions about building your best cloud computing career. Maybe your desire is to be a cloud architect, maybe you desire to be a solution architect, maybe you desire to be a cloud engineer, a network engineer, or a whole host of wonderful technology careers. That's why we come online to help guide you to build your best career. My name is Michael Gibbs. I'm the founder and CEO of Go Cloud Careers. And you know what? I've been in tech now for as long as I can remember, about 25 years now, and it's been fun the entire time. And for 2 decades, the last 2 decades, in addition to working in tech, you know what I did? I helped people find their first or best technology careers or get promoted in tech. And I want to help you build your absolute best technology career. And that's why we come here 2 to 3 times per week so you can ask any questions you desire. How do I become a cloud architect? How do I become a cloud engineer? How do I get that solution architect job, that cloud architect job, that cloud engineer job, whatever the case is? So that's why we're here. So come and ask some questions. Now, I'd like to tell you about some really great and fun free things that we do for the cloud computing community. In June, we're going to be running a completely free either Azure Solution Architect Expert or Google Professional Cloud Architect Bootcamp. There's a link in the description below in the chat box. Vote for the next free training session that you absolutely desire so you can build your absolute best technology career. And you know what? If you're looking to get certified, we have a completely free AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional book. It covers the associate and the professional in the same book. And guess what? It's completely free. And we do this to help you build your best career. The link is in the description below. And on next Thursday, we're going to have another webinar that talks about how to get your first cloud job. So please sign up and join us for that. Again, it is completely free. And we'll tell you everything that you need to know on these webinars. The link is in the description below. In this webinar, what we'll talk about, we'll tell you exactly how to leverage your past experience to convince the hiring managers you have experience, even when you don't. We'll tell you exactly what hiring managers desire. We will discuss in depth either the cloud architect or the cloud engineer role based upon whatever you desire. We will show you what hiring managers desire and the perfect employee. We'll show you how to build the perfect resume or tell you what needs to be on the resume. And we will teach you how to skip HR so you don't get auto-rejected and you can get cloud hired. So everybody that's there, if you can give me a hashtag cloud hired as well as your location so we know where you're at. I'm over here in Port St. Lucie, Florida. Chris from my team is over there on the west coast of Florida, near that St. Petersburg area. Where are you? I see Mr. Businessman is here, and I'm pretty sure he's from Atlanta. But and that. So I want to let everybody know that we have been getting every day one of our cloud architect students is getting hired. So right now we have the Cloud Architect Career Development Program. You've seen lots of videos of our students that are getting hired. For example, you saw one of Jeffrey West, who wasn't working in tech, who's now working as a solution architect. You saw Romanik Ivan Tamba at least one day, and you'll see more of him another day, where he just got hired by AWS while he was in college, and his last job was working as a food server. But he's a brilliant man, but he's now a cloud architect at AWS. You'll hear from people like Coyote that were doing payment processing that are now hired as cloud architects and solution architects by AWS and other great cloud providers. And we want to get you cloud hired too. So currently, we have a 20% discount on our Cloud Architect Career Development Program. That means people pay effectively 1 day's pay for the entire program upon graduation. So, we're really excited. We're really proud. Every day, one of our students gets cloud hired, and we want to help you get cloud hired too. So if you desire to become a cloud architect and work, we'll obviously tell you how to do it on your own, but our program is a single one-stop shop, and it will get you hired far better, far faster, and most likely for more money than you could ever do on your own. So that's why we put it together. So there's that. So here's a question for all of you. What questions do you have about building your cloud computing career? Because that's why we come online. See, I remember when I began my career, I was told, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. And I spent almost $30,000. And 25 years ago, that $30,000 was really a lot of money. I mean, it's a lot of money now, but it was like $90,000, $100,000 worth in those days. And I did it. And all those things that I did initially were mistakes because I was guided by certification people as opposed to career people. And I want you to build your perfect career, and that's why I'm here. So if you've got some questions, please ask them. Bader UI, good morning. Bader here from New York. I used to live in New York. You just joined the cloud engineering course. Well, Bader, congratulations. We're going to have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful time in that. I suspect you're going to learn a lot of networking, a ton of cloud. I think you'll learn a lot of Python, or at least some Python. You'll be doing some Linux, some Terraform, and you're going to be job ready soon. But in addition to just the tech, which is half of building your right career, we're going to cover all the leadership skills, the sales skills, the emotional intelligence skills, the executive skills that not only will get you hired, but they'll help you get promoted to be paid far more than the rest of the engineers out there. So, kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Here's something I learned a long time ago. When you give an engineer those leadership skills, the same kind of leadership skills you give to the cloud architect, whoa, their career really rises, because now they've got all the tech and all the leadership. So that's why we put our course together like this, because we want to know that our engineering people are set up for success. If we only teach tech, and tech is good, I love tech, don't get me wrong, but if we only teach tech, the people are stuck behind the desk, and if they want to do more, become senior or principal in their roles, they won't be able to. And that's why we teach the business and the tech to truly maximize that technology career. So Bader, congratulations. You made the first step towards changing your career. And we work very hard for our students, and our students every single day get cloud hired. Hope to see you in today's class at noon today. If you just joined it, on Fridays, we do our special leadership course. We talk about things that are necessary. Some days we practice interviews, for example. Some days we describe technology. Some days we talk about how to lead. Some days we talk about business skills, but it's really, really great stuff. Can't wait to work with you, Bader. You are. I'm super excited to see you. So welcome, and good to see you. Mr. Businessman, I think you're over there in Atlanta, Georgia. Good morning, Mr. Businessman. And yes, thank you for me. Thank you for Chow, Leo, and Chris. And I'm very, very grateful for all of them. They contribute so much. And we'll be adding 2 additional special members of our team really soon. And we're really excited to talk about that too, Mr. Businessman. Priscilla Grace from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Wow. That's a place I've spent a whole lot of time in. Here to win. Good morning. Bob Cloud hired. I'm with you. That's the whole point of doing this. The whole point of training, the whole point of education, the whole point of all of it is to get hired or promoted. So it should be cloud hired or cloud promoted. And that's what we strive to do every day. Cloud certified is okay, but just a piece of paper. I want to go from the piece of paper to a great life. That's why we do what we do. So please, by all means, ask your questions. That's what we're here. Ask some questions. Don't be shy. I don't bite. Nice, relaxed, easygoing bear. Shoot for the stars. With the same sales skills that help architects be beneficial to engineers. Sales skills, yes. Soft skills, yes. Leadership skills, yes. Emotional intelligence, yes. Empathy, yes. Executive presence, absolutely. Business acumen, yes, and yes, some more. Yes, so all of these skills are good for the engineers. In fact, shoot for the stars. They have different tiers of engineers. And when you've got a really, really rock star engineer, and typically they're really good technically, they end up as an engineer, potentially a senior engineer, and their career flatlines. And it doesn't matter how good they are, the career flatlines shoot for the stars once they reach a certain point. But the point is you should not flatline at all. The way above the flatlining in the career is to add the business acumen. So when that really smart engineer says, well, okay, this is the stuff I'm building, but here's what it can do for the business, you're much more valuable. When you can describe the product and sell the product, wow, you are much more valuable. So what you're seeing is these same skills that can transform an engineer into an architect can also transform the engineer. Because with these leadership skills and soft skills, the engineer can be a team lead. They can then move into distinguished engineer roles and principal engineer roles. The engineers with these skills can move into engineering management. They can move into like marketing engineer positions, like a technical marketing engineer or a sales engineer. And these positions usually pay more than just basic engineering. So yes, these skills shoot for the stars are absolutely, absolutely, absolutely wonderful for engineers. And I'll tell you what, in the beginning of my engineering career, it was, I'm a CCNP, CCDP, CCIE, MCSE. When I got into the better part of my career, what I found was it wasn't any of that really mattered. In fact, my manager told me it didn't. It was more about the impact I can make to the company. So shoot for the stars. It's been said that your IQ only gets you so far, and your EQ, or your emotional intelligence, gets you a lot further. So what is the best predictor of long-term career success? Shoot for the stars. Emotional intelligence on the level that you have. One of the best and soft skills on average can raise someone's salary by about $30,000 per year. I'm sorry, 30% per year. So think about that in a good engineering position and shoot for the stars. Yes, these skills are so beneficial for them. Absolutely. Nick Love, Cloud Hire. Fantastic. Good seeing you this morning, Nick. And if you got some questions, please ask them. We don't bite. Felton Jackson, as a person who has been in sales for 10 years, when building your resume for a solution architect, how do you accentuate your presentation skills and communication skills? Well, Felton Jackson, that's pretty easy. So when you put together your resume, you are putting together a communications package. A resume, and we need to think about it accurately, is an advertisement that says, why should I bring you in for an interview? So think about, if the whole thing is an advertisement of why I should bring you in for an interview, then the resume should be the first step. And I'll talk about all the other things that go with it about your brand. So Felton, what should go on your job? And that's a very interesting name. So the first top of your resume needs to be something that screams, read me, read me, read me. And most people get this wrong. So on the top of your resume, I have in big bold letters, for example, mine, it says Mike Gibbs. It says MS, comma, MBA, comma, CCIE, comma, and I usually put Google Professional Cloud Architect. I have other certifications, but Felton Jackson, don't go anything beyond too many certifications, or you will not be conceived as credible. You'll be seen as a techie versus an executive, and an architect is an executive, so you've got to have that. Now, the next thing on your resume should not be an objective. Here's why. An objective says, hey, this is what I want to take from you. This is what I want from you. So if you've been in sales, you know the way you win in sales is you solve customer problems. And you sell a product that costs less than the value it delivers for the customer. Now, there's other ways of selling, but when we're dealing with these kind of sales that we're dealing with, these $100 million to $1 billion plus sales that we deal with in technology, we can't just sell it on emotion. It's not like we're selling a car. So we have to build a business case and an ROI model for everything we do. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. So the first thing we need to do is sell ourselves to the hiring manager. So put an executive summary on there. Let me take a deep breath and think of mine. I might say accomplished technology executive with 25 years experience. I might then say 25 years experience designing network, cloud, and enterprise architectures. Experience in leading large teams, closing billion-dollar deals, and bringing out the best in others. Experience coaching technology professionals. That shows what I can do for the company. Now, Felton Jackson, now here's the next part of it. Executives speak a certain way. We speak with gravitas, and we speak to be easily understandable. Now, Felton, when you write, here's the thing. Write for executive content. Write for readability. So even in the Wall Street Journal and New York Times are written about an 8th grade level. So your resume you don't want on your resume, dealt with EBS, S3, EC2, this, because when you see that says tech. An executive, like an architect or even a sales rep, should be talking about what they've done and how it impacted their customer. So architected a new website for customer XYZ, which increased sales by 11.5%. Designed and sold new ERP application that improved supply chain performance by 13%, therefore decreasing inventory costs by XY%, which freed up XYZ amount in capital. So when you start communicating these things in your architect resume, it shows the digital transformation that you've done. Now, when you talk about, designing and selling a solution and presenting in executive briefings, presenting at industry conferences, when you start talking about where your papers are published, now your resume screams thought leader, cloud architect, digital transformation specialist. Now, what language did you speak? Pop that language in there, because guess what? This is an international world. The more languages you speak, the better. I only speak 2.5 languages. I used to speak 3. I wish I spoke more. So, kind of keep that in the back of your team. So you should have that. But really what you're talking about is as follows: digital transformation, implemented new communications and collaborations technology platform. But what did that do? Did it speed manufacturing? If so, by how much? What awards did you win? Account manager of the quarter, account executive of the quarter, global account manager of the year, whatever the thing is in sales that you're actually doing. Now, when you talk about the sales on your resume, remember, architects do sales. What do architects do? We design, present, and sell. What do sales reps do? They kind of design, present, and sell as well. But now you're going to be looking at it this way. So now you've got a sales executive that's theoretically responsible for the sales. They may have an engineer that's responsible for making sure the tech stuff works. And you've got a consulting architect that comes in and works with the sales rep to help design a solution, present it, and sell it to the customer. So talk about communications and collaborations across engineering, architects, and different channels of a large technology company, because that, again, are things that architects do. So publish a blog, promote it, give speeches, promote them. Those are the kind of things. Talk about the speeches you've done and presentations you've done in sales. So really what you're doing is you're trying to show the business acumen. Have you done ROI modeling for your customers? Yes. Put that on your resume, because that's a cloud architect thing to do. So really, 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 these are the kind of things that I really want people to think about when you talk about how do you build your career. So the architect is a digital transformation specialist, so design, present, and sell. Sales reps, when it comes to me, are sales reps and medical people are the easiest people I have, the easiest people to get cloud architect jobs. And here's the reason. Even though we need to know so much tech for the job, we need to know so much tech for this job, because the reality is we have to know how everything works and how each and all the pieces and parts in the whole system work together. See, in architecture is like the human body. So I've got eyes, which are a sensory organ, right? And ears, which is a sensory organ, and a nose and a mouth, which have sensory organs. That's one part of it. I've got blood vessels taking blood from all over my body. I've got muscles that enable me to move, and a skeletal structure that makes me strong. So, that's the way the body works. We've got a gastrointestinal system, we've got a respiratory system, and a cardiovascular system. But architecture is really the same thing. What you do here reverberates here and here and here. It's kind of like throwing a giant rock into a pond, and you see the ripples all over. So what I want you to do is I want you to show all the cool stuff, all the executiveness, all that heavy design and business work from your sales career. Bring that over here. Add some technical competency, because you need to have that technical competency, and go out there and crush your dreams. I mean it. Go out there and crush your dreams, and you'll do well. So if you've got more questions, I'd love to answer them. Before we go to the next question, on Thursday, please join us in the How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar. Register the link in the description below. We will tell you how to get hired. I mean it. We'll start out with the following. We'll talk about leveraging your life experience, just like we talked about with Felon Jackson right now. He's got such good experience for the hiring managers. He's already got half the resume just from being in sales. So we'll talk about leveraging your past experience. The next thing we'll talk about doing is we'll talk about what do hiring managers want? Because guess what? People buy what they want, and people hire who they like. And we'll talk about what are those characteristics that those hiring managers want. We'll talk about optimizing your resume so you can get that critically important interview. We'll talk about skipping HR so you didn't get auto rejected when you don't have enough experience, because you don't need that. We'll talk about how to be seen by the hiring manager and how to convince the hiring manager to hire you. We'll do this completely free. We do it every Thursday. Please join us for the next one. The link is in the description below. And if you've got some questions, please ask them in the chat box. Our whole goal is to help you build the best career. Shoot for the stars. What other skills that are perceived as non-engineer skills might be helpful to separate them from the rest during the interview process? Well, shoot for the stars. It's really interesting. I just read an article from a magazine, and you're going to see it coming out very soon. And in the article, you're going to see why it's not just enough to know tech in today's modern world. And here's the reason shoot for the stars. So when I started in tech a long time ago, you have to remember this. The tech didn't work. So 25 years ago, I started in tech. We're trying to turn up this frame relay circuit with an ISDN backup. And let me tell you, that tech was so bad. They used to call ISDN. I still don't know because it didn't work so often. Frame relay, I had all kinds of stuff with the switching issues. So in those days, what we had is we had all these super, super, super smart geniuses out there. They'd forget to shower. They'd be in the basement. We'd be bringing in pizza, and we were all techies, and we were having a ball. Now, that was cool, right? And in those old days, 25 years ago, what you got paid on was how much stuff you knew, because nobody could make anything work. And if you could make something work, you could write your own ticket. So, for example, back in 1996, Cisco certified internet experts were billing themselves out at over $100 an hour. And they were working like 60 hours a week. So $6,000 a week, 25 years ago, just because they understood networking. Now, that was because the technology was so bad in those days that you needed those people to actually put it together. Now, in today's world, I want to make it clear what happened. We now have the cloud. The cloud is silly, silly easy. Now, the cloud seems hard if you don't have a network and a data center background. But for those of us in the network and the data center background, we're like, you kidding? This is it? So, for example, to learn the technology for the Cisco Certified Internet Expert, when I did it back when it was a 2-day exam, was 75,000 pages of reading and about 1,000 hours of practice left, easily. Now, the CCI is a 1-day exam, and we've got things like the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional, which we could literally put in a whole 500-page book. It's like nothing. So when we consider like the old CCIE to this, we're dealing with at least 150 times the knowledge to be a CCIE than an AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional. So it puts that in context. So now, why do we not need to? What happened? So I don't need people to rack and stack stuff. I don't need network engineers to configure 18,000 routers in the modern world, just less routers. So I need half the engineering team. I need less Linux admins to turn on Linux systems. Here's why. We push a button and Linux is installed. I still need good Linux people, but not to the degree that I did before. Now, Python, we do a lot of scripting and automation. Engineers, not architects, but for the engineers, and that's not that complicated of a language either. You can actually learn, that relatively easy. So Bash shell scripting, again, is something that's pretty easy to learn. So when you're dealing with this whole career now, and you're starting to see that the tech is easy, no longer are we a world where we only need the smartest and best and brightest tech people. Because guess what? The tech is easy now by comparison. And guess what? The tech works. AWS only had 4 major outages last year. Only 4. I mean, if you really think about it, they couldn't get to 99.99% availability. No cloud provider could. Google couldn't do it last year, neither could Azure. But still, they were able to get to 99.9% available, which, on the grand scheme of things, is still really, really, really great compared to what we were able to do 25 years ago. So even with 4 massive outages, still, that's the point. They're still able to get there. So now our engineers need to be better. Now our engineers need to know not just the tech, but what does the tech do? How can the tech prove the business? How does that engineer collaborate with the architect to make an end-to-end system for the customer, where the sum of the parts, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts? So, if I add these $10 million of routers, $10 million of servers, and $10 million of applications, I want to deliver $100 million of business value, not $30 million, which is the cost. So from here, kind of keep this in the back of your mind. All those skills, therefore, business acumen, critical to the engineer. Leadership skills, critical to the engineer. Sales skills, woohoo, you have it. As an engineer, guess what? Now I'm an engineer, I'm working on a big project, and I don't know where to go. I've got sales skills. Would you like to work with me? Would you like to help me? In the end, you fix and build this thing that nobody ever could do. And it's so good that you and all the engineers get promoted into better positions. You become a chief technology officer for your invention and your patents. So that's why this collaboration technology, the emotional intelligence to bring out the best in others, the ability to fuse someone when they've got some mental illness, because it's going to happen along the way too, part of your empathy and emotional intelligence systems. And yes, leadership. It's been said that in organizations, 20% of the people do 80% of the work. So can you be one of those 20% of the people that's so big in your impact? And here's the thing when it comes to your impact. I want you to think about it this way, shoot for the stars. I am one person and I work 80 hours a week. Look at all the stuff I can do. I am one person and I'm not that great, but I've got great business skills, great sales skills, great emotional intelligence, great empathy. Now I can convince this engineer to do 15 hours a week from me, this one to do 30 hours a week from me, this one does 40, and these 18 do 10. How much more can I achieve in this team? There's an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And it's these non-engineer skills that we're talking about that enable you to go far together, because the team is always more functional than the person. There's no John Rambos out there. I love the movie, but there's no such thing as a John Rambo. Now, there may be a 6-man SEAL platoon, but there's no single people out there by themselves. So shoot for the stars. All those other skills, those professional development skills, communication, presentation, skills, so CXO relevancy, executive presence, leadership, business acumen, ROI modeling, that will help any technology career. And that's what we put in our engineering and our architecture courses. And that's one of the things that separates us above everybody. We put a $20,000 leadership course in all of our technology training programs. We don't charge anything close to that. We don't even charge for the leadership training we're doing. But it's in there for those reasons. And it makes the hiring manager want to hire you, because it makes you stand out very far. Michelle Watson. Is a CCNA and an SAP cert enough to get an interview? Yes. Any thoughts on why people are using study dumps for the CCNA? Yep. You'll never be hired if you do that. So Michelle Watson, I want to make this really clear. No certification will ever get you hired. I'm going to say this again. No certification will ever get you hired. In fact, it's so critical, I'm going to say it again. No certification will ever get anybody hired, ever. And the reason is, Michelle Watson, certification teaches the name of a service and how to configure that service. Now, Michelle Watson, I don't know what career you're actually looking for. So you need to tell me that before I can tell you if the certification is valuable or not for even your goal. So I need to know your career, not just the certifications. But since no certifications will ever get you a job, the only reason we ever use certifications is to get an interview. We have to deal with both sides of the coin. You can get certifications and you can get 1,000 interviews. But if you don't get hired on any of those 1,000 interviews, and I promise some of you that if only you'll have a certification knowledge, you can go on 10,000 interviews and no one will be interested. And that's what happens, Michelle. People go and they use the CCNP dumps and they use all these practice exams that give them the answers to the key. They get all these certifications. They go on an interview and it's like, bye, no, 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 no. And, what we can't say on an interview, Michelle, is to someone they come in and say, how do you secure your network? And they say, WAF and shield. And you can't say to them, I'm sorry, you're not competent. We would be hacked in 30 seconds if that was our idea of security. But thanks for trying. What do we say is come back when you have more experience, because it sounds much better than saying you don't know anything. So Michelle, you may have a great background, so I'm not saying that you're not, but I'm going to tell you this very clearly. Certifications will not today, will not tomorrow, and will not ever get anyone a job that's anything other than the most junior entry level, $10 to $15 an hour, maybe $20 an hour max, cloud admin job where you know the name of a service and how to configure it. So my thoughts of people that are using the dumps, we don't want them in technology. They're cheating, and cheating, we don't need cheaters. And they're only cheating themselves because I got these papers. They go on an interview and it's like, get out of here. So that's the thing. So I really be careful on this, because what did I do, Michelle? Before I started this company, and I've been helping people for 20 years get hired, I literally interviewed 1,000 people that had the SAP certification and other certifications as well to see if I could hire a single one of them. I couldn't hire a single one of them. Now, all of them knew the name of a service and how to configure that service, but nobody knew architecture, which is end-to-end system design, which is the job. No one knew digital transformation, which is the job. No one knew how to design, which is the job. And Michelle, on these certifications, they only teach you proprietary solutions. And most customers don't want proprietary solutions. And because of that, we can't even do 2/3 of what's in certification. For example, Michelle, let's say we had a multi-cloud network, we have multi-cloud architecture. Oh, AWS has beautiful DynamoDB, right? It's a great NoSQL database. It is. Now we're multi-cloud. That's proprietary. Can't use it. Wait. How about Amazon Aurora? No, we can't use that either. Why? Because it's proprietary. So if we want to go multi-cloud, maybe we use Mongo database on 2 clouds. Not covered in certification, but it's reality. How about streaming data? Look, if we're exclusively in AWS, we can use Kinesis. Beautiful service, and it is great. But we're going to be multi-cloud because 87% of customers are multi-cloud and 97% want to be by the end of the year. So now, guess what? With all this, so it's still, now we can't use 2/3 of those services that are covered in certification. Kinesis gets replaced with Kafka, which gets deployed in 3 different clouds under our hybrid cloud. So that's the reason. So my thoughts on people cheating is we don't need cheaters in this world. And I don't like cheaters, I don't respect cheaters, and I don't believe in cheating. So that's how I feel about using dumps. I feel that you should get knowledge. And knowledge is what gets you hired. Knowledge is how you solve your customer problems. The reason we don't hire people that just do dumps is as follows. Let's assume I didn't interview somebody thoroughly that had 16 certifications because I trusted the certifications, which we know not to. But let's just to say that. On my first day, that person starts and I say, configure BGP on this direct connection. I want you to prioritize this subnet on this link and this subnet on this link. 30 seconds later, that person who's brand new, doesn't know what they know, doesn't know what they don't know. All of a sudden, their connections to the cloud are dead. The entire cloud is down and we're not doing any business. We're losing millions of dollars a minute. And that's why we don't hire people based on certification. We hire people based upon competency. So what do hiring managers want? I can tell you right now. They want people that, number one, are technically competent, and number two, are people they can trust. When you have a certification and we ask somebody questions on something and they don't know anything on the certification, we know they cheated. We kick them out the door so darn fast, and we say, come back when you have more experience. Now, Michelle, I'm much more polite than that. I actually keep a cookie jar in my office. I mean it, a full cookie jar full of cookies. And here's the reason. I interview so many people, and the second someone bluffs to me or lies to me, I can't hire them. So I just give them a cookie. And I know when somebody's got all these certifications and they look good and I ask basic things and they don't know it, I know they cheated. So that goes down with lying to me and I can't do it. So if the number one thing employers say is they want someone that can do the job, and the number two thing is they say someone they can trust, it's darn obvious when someone does an exam dump because they don't know anything. And then we interview them. It's like, well, either they cheated, which means we can't hire them, or they don't know anything, which means they can't hire them. And the more certifications you have, the more you're going to be hit with questions from those certifications. So I don't have anything on my resume that I don't have expertise in. There should be nothing on your resume that you're not expert in. So I don't believe that if you could do a CCIE using dumps, you would still know the network, in which case I still wouldn't be able to hire you, neither would any other good hiring manager. So don't use dumps. Instead, get training and education. The knowledge you need is not covered in these certifications. It's not. No, I don't know which job you want because it'll be different for a cloud architect versus a cloud engineer. And I can tell you the things that you need to do to learn for either of those careers, and I'd be happy to, but you didn't mention that. But no, it's not about getting an interview. Anybody can get an interview. But what happens if you go on 1,000 interviews and you don't get hired on 1,000? Mentally, you're broken after that. You're defeated and your confidence will go down and you won't be getting hired, which means you won't have the gravitas or the presence when you go on these interviews. Two, once you start going on interviews and you don't get hired, you kind of get blacklisted all these companies. Don't bring in, don't bring in, don't bring in. So I tell my people, build your skills and be great. So I have a rule in life. If someone goes on more than 3 interviews and they don't get hired, there's a problem. The problem can be their technical competency, communication skills, or attitude, but there's always a problem. So set yourself up for success. Master your career. Nobody else's career other than your career. Be great at what you do. Go on that interview. Have that hiring manager shake your hand. Sometimes they'll give you a better job than you even applied for. My first tech job 25 years ago, I applied to be a network engineer. And after they interviewed me when I had 0 experience, they said, oh my God, Mike, you're too good. I'm going to make you a senior network engineer. Because I knew it. I didn't use dumps. I not only passed the exams, but I practiced, and I learned it. I learned how everything worked. And that's what gets you hired, not certifications. So don't worry about getting an interview. Myself, the students on my Cloud Architect Career Development Program, if I do a LinkedIn day with them, they get 10 to 20 recruiters reach out to them every single day, 7 days a week. It's not hard to get a job. The key is you can't get the job until you have the skills. So interview comes second. Knowledge comes first. And no certifications will ever teach anything that's necessary. So hope I answered your question. Please join us on Thursday on our free How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar. The link is in the description below. And on this webinar, we will tell you everything you need to know to get hired. For example, we will tell you, what does the hiring manager want? We will show you how to leverage your past life experience to get hired. We will show you what should be on your resume. We will tell you the kind of certifications that will help you get the interview. And we will tell you the things that you need to do and learn to actually get hired and not just get an interview. See, an interview is only like a percentage of the way there. It's not the main stuff. The main stuff is your competency. So go out there and be great. Build the career of your dreams. Make a ton of money and love your life. Chris or Chow, if you can bring in the next one. Klaus, what are the main skills you will learn in an MBA that will help your architecture career? Well, a whole lot. No. Klaus, we put those same MBA skills in our cloud architect career development program because for the most part, you can't actually do the job without these skills. So, Klaus, here are the critical skills. You will have to learn how to do executive writing, which is different than regular writing. And unfortunately, they do not teach that in an MBA program. In fact, in an MBA program, and I've done my MBA as well, they teach the opposite of executive writing. In an MBA program, they say, write a 32-page paper that has this many citations. The reality should be, can you get those 30 pages in 2? Which they don't teach in an MBA program, but that's okay. What will they teach, though? They will tell you the following. They will teach you how to do an ROI model, which is hugely important. They will teach you some program manager skills, which are hugely important. They will teach you how to read a balance sheet and a financial statement, which you're going to have to do as a cloud architect. They will teach you some management skills to a degree and some leadership skills to a degree. Not as good as you can do like we would do in our program, but still, you need to get them. They will help your business analytical skills, which is very valuable. You'll be able to see that if I impact this variable here, how does this impact this variable? And it will teach you things like, for example, I love to see all these cloud people say, hey, guess what? It's so great when you go to the cloud, your capital expenses become operational expenses. And how great is that? Well, personally, Klaus, I think it's terrible. I personally would much prefer to buy a house one time in cash than pay for it for the rest of my life. It's cheaper. But you don't know that unless you understand capital costs and capital structures. Sometime the cloud, which is a shift from a capital expense where I purchase it to a monthly rent, which is operational expenditures, is good. But what determines that? The organization's cost structure. What is their weighted average cost of capital? See, I've seen about 1,000 people try to walk into a customer and say, hey, I'm good. You're not going to make monthly, you'll make monthly payments. There's nothing to buy. And customers are like, are you crazy? This is not an advantage. So you need to be able to talk about, what works. So if a customer's weighted average cost of capital is 11% because it's high risk, then yes, the operational expenses of the cloud might be much cheaper. Wait, if the customer is using their systems 24 hours a day, hardcore, the data center may be much cheaper than the cloud, which is better for lightly used applications that go up and down in terms of use. And you need to be able to do that. But here's the thing, Klaus. We speak to executives as our job. The more pedigree we have, the more seriously they take us. So, Klaus, I could do this right now. Hi, Mr. CEO. Today we're going to discuss these business initiatives with you. We are going to discuss your balance sheet, your financial statement, and what we can do to improve your free cash flow with technology. Now, Klaus, if I did that, all really good stuff, I'd be laughed out of the room because the executive would see me as an analyst and not a peer. By comparison, if I would have looked that executive in the eye and talked to them and say, we've evaluated what you've discussed with us. We've looked at your balance sheet. We've looked at your financial statements. We've looked at what your competitors are doing. And at the same time, what we've analyzed is this system we believe can help you increase sales by 2%. We've calculated that 2% of your sales would equal $13 billion next year. And therefore, we believe this technology platform that cost $800 million was worth it because you'll get $2 billion from that. Now, we've also identified an opportunity for communication and collaboration. We can take your teams in Asia, Germany, South America, and Canada and Mexico, get them to work together faster so they can produce products better, faster, and cheaper than before. We believe that will save you 32,000 man hours per year, which equals that your average salary costs this. So those are the kind of things we have to do as architects sometimes, Klaus. And when we're going to get requests for proposal and requests for information and request for query, which is their pricing, which is a lot of what we do. We have to address the business issues there, the technical issues there, and the organization's issues. So those skills are really critical. That's why in our Cloud Architect Career Development Program, we spend so much time discussing MBA skills. In fact, on Fridays, every Friday, we have a whole business class. And I've actually rolled the engineers in the Cloud Engineering Program into that same business class because it's so helpful. So people like to ask me a class and they say, hey, Mike, should I get a master's degree in technology? And I say, no, get a master's degree in business. And they say, why? I said, because the master's degree in technology, at one point, it doesn't impact your salary anymore. It doesn't promote more options. It doesn't do anything for you. Master's degree in business, and all of a sudden you're a business leader. You're the engineering manager, the architect. So yes, MBA is great things. It's 50% MBA. So, and here's the reason, Klaus. So the architect is 50% techie, but not techie, hands-on techie, but techie, and 50% executive. And the MBA helps build those executive skills. It helps build your pedigree. So the MBA is like the CCI equivalent in business. So you've got that. It helps you, really stands out. It'll increase your salary, your marketability, the interviews you get, and your capabilities in the job. Excellent. I strongly recommend an MBA. Bader, are there remote jobs for cloud engineers? There's remote jobs for everybody. So I've been working remote now since 2001. Yeah, that's when I started working remote. And I've been remote since 2001. Now, I did in 2003 to 2004 work in a New York office where I actually went to the office twice per month or so. And the rest of the time I worked remotely. But when I left that job in 2004, I didn't ever go to the office except to go for executive briefings, et cetera, consulting meetings, et cetera. So there's 1,000,001 remote jobs for engineers out there, and architects, and salespeople, and everywhere else in between. Absolutely. Now, pre-COVID, there were 1,000,001 remote jobs. Post-COVID, there's a lot. Now, there's something interesting, Bader. The companies that are producing the technology like Apple and Google, they're the only ones that are saying go back to the office. It's Cisco. We've been remote for 20 plus years. So that's really the key. So it's all about knowing that what you've got is the right skill. So lots and lots of remote jobs. Bader UI, if you've got a skill, you'll be hired. It doesn't matter. There's so much need out there for capable people. It's impossible to describe how much need there is. Amazon, for example, has 2,510 pages of open positions. I'm not joking. I mean, that's massive. I think that's over at AWS. Microsoft has got a ton of open positions out there. Now, you're starting to see some of the FANG companies not like running into a little trouble right now, like Netflix, for example. They're not hiring anymore, and some of their subsidiaries are laying off. And Facebook is no longer hiring. But, the big banks, oh, yeah, they're hiring, and the cloud providers, yeah, they're hiring. The consulting companies, yeah, they're hiring. Enterprises, yeah, they're hiring. Businesses, yeah, they're hiring. So right now, it's pretty darn easy to get a job if you have the skills. We still can't hire people that don't have the skills. And the reason is, just look at what happened with Facebook. Somebody, didn't understand BGP. They made a BGP misconfiguration error, and it took Facebook down for like 9 hours. So Google also was taken down by a BGP configuration mistake. So it's a matter of knowing what you know and knowing what you don't know and being good at your job and nobody else's, being great at your job. But yes, tons of remote jobs for you. Absolutely. And go after them. Get your skills great. And when you're ready, you'll get a great job. We'll be talking about being cloud hired very soon, Bader. And I know you're going to get a great job. Falashaki. Assuming you want to be a cloud architect, should I get the AWS Solution Pro, Azure Solution Architect Pro, and GCP Pro certifications? Falashaki, do you want to be an architect or a certification junkie? If you are an architect, you are a digital transformation specialist. So get one of those certifications, the AWS Solution Architect Pro, the Azure Solution Architect Expert, or the Google Professional Cloud Architect. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I strongly recommend don't do the Google one. I strongly recommend the Azure or the AWS one, and here's the reason why. You're looking for the majority of the market share to get your first cloud job. So Google is a very, very, very small percentage of the cloud. So don't pick the obscure one. So I love the Google Cloud. I love it. But keep that in the back of your mind. So I would get one of those three. And then I would determine what kind of architect you want to be. Do you want to be an architect that loves the infrastructure? I would add a networking certification to that. Do you want to be an architect that focuses on security? I would add a security certification for that. The point is, I want something real for you. The AWS Certified Solution Architect profile is so basic. It's about 5% to 10% of what you need for the job, and no more than that. And the reason it's so basic is there's nothing to it. It's 500 pages of reading detail for the Certified Solution Architect Professional book. We got it down to 450 with labs. It's nothing in there. The CCNP is a 10,000 page book, but worth of books by the time you get there. That shows knowledge and substance and depth. You don't get it from these cloud certifications. They're meant to be easy. In fact, these certifications, like the Certified Solution Architect Professional, I consider them to be, how do you prep a sales rep to sell this stuff? It's too basic to do anything. So keep that in the back of your mind. So, those two certifications will make your resume look good. Either a networking one, maybe you want to do security, maybe a CISSP or a CCSP in addition to one of those two pro certs. That's how you build a resume. You then add business and leadership and digital transformation and sales. You add some ROI modeling, some CXO relevancy, some presentations. That's what needs to be on that resume. It's not a ton of certifications. It's a ton of competency. So, people always want to ask certifications. They're like, Mike, I have this certification. When am I getting hired? And I say, what did you do beyond the certification? They say nothing. And I said, then you'll never be hired. And they say, what do you mean, Mike? And I say, the certification is the name of a service and how to configure that service. And that does not teach the job, which is meeting with the customer, asking about their business goals, their business pain points, their business challenges, then evaluating all the systems they have in their network in the data center, and then designing the solution that will solve those business problems. That is what we do. And that's not covered in any certification. So, Paula Shockley, get either the Certified Solution Architect Professional or the Azure Solution Architect Expert and get a more substantial certification in the industry. Then, focus on the skills to be an architect and not this other trivial certification stuff. This is not an engineering career. Engineering careers are built on credentials. This is a finesse career. This is about your gravitas, your emotional intelligence, your sales skills, your presentation skills, your CXO relevancy. What do I care about as a CEO, which is different than my Chief Operating Officer, Chris, on the other end of the phone? Trust me, we care about different stuff. And we both have the same mission. My main focus is strategy, which he helps me with. And his main focus is making sure everything works. And we need different skill set for that. So the point is get a good skill set. Have the right skill set. And they do that. But it's not coming, for example, in certification. So certification is not the way. Now, Folashaki, you could take our course, or as following. If you wanted to get a cloud architect job or a solution architect job, here's what you could learn. On the networking side, you could learn subnetting, supernetting, route aggregation. You could learn BGP. You could learn some OSPF. You could learn NAT, one-to-one NAT, one-to-many NAT, static NAT, dynamic NAT, PAT. You need to learn switching, VLANs, 802.1Q tagging, VLAN trunking, etc., like ISL, 802.1Q trunking, etc. Then we need to know about Ether channel and link aggregation groups for the cloud architect / solution architect. Then we need to understand QoS, WAN technologies such as SSL VPNs, IPsec VPNs, Ethernet over MPLS, Ethernet private lines. And then we also need to talk about subnetting, and we need to talk about software-defined networking and SASE. Those are the kind of WANs that we'll be using to connect to the cloud. You should also have a good knowledge of ARP and proxy ARP and DNS and DHCP. So those are some of the things from the networking. You must know those things in depth. We're talking about 10,000 pages worth of materials to read, minimum for every cloud architect, just on that stuff, or take our course. Then, what's going to get you hired is deep knowledge of server virtualization. And that way, if you're in your data center, which is where it all starts, the stuff we take and move to the cloud, the Nutanix cloud, the OpenStack cloud, the Azure cloud, the Google cloud, or anybody else, it's all the same. Now, granted, Google might say compute engine instance, and Amazon might call it the Elastic Compute Cloud, but it's just a virtual machine. And if you know what a virtual machine is, you know all the clouds. So You need to understand virtualization and get some good information on that and start working with VMware and other things. Understand how it works under the hood because we're designing it. Do the same thing for containers and container orchestration. A couple hundred pages of reading from VMware, Docker, and Kubernetes, and you're going to get it. Then DNS. Go to F5. Read about DNS because they've been in it forever. Read the Internet Engineering Task Force RFCs or take our course. Do the same thing for DHCP. Now, really learn about storage. Go to Dell EMC because they make the majority of the storage and read about block storage, object storage, and file storage. And go to IBM at the same time and learn it from them. Go to the Oracle page and really get a good grip on how network file system works because we use it everywhere with Linux hosts. Go to Microsoft and get a good understanding of the server message block protocol and quotas, etc. on the Microsoft side. Get some experience with authentication systems such as Radius and Active Directory. Go to Microsoft and learn these things if you're not in our training program. If you're on our training program, it's covered. Learn the private cloud, such as OpenStack and Nutanix. Again, we teach all those things. Learn how load balancers work in depth. So go to the F5 webpage and read a couple hundred pages if you're not in our program. If you're in our program, we cover these things. Then, when you're done those kinds of things, you're now starting in the position to get the technology. So then you need to know the security. We're not going to be using WAF and Shield in reality. So I need you to go to the Cisco website, the Fortinet website, the Palo Alto website, the Checkpoint website, and learn the security things that are necessary for the job. Then when you're done that, learn the business acumen, the sales skills, the emotional intelligence, the ROI modeling, the CXO relevancy, that kind of thing. Then you're getting hired and you're going to have a great job. So this is not a job about certifications. We're just looking for the minimum level of certifications just to get the interview. We don't want any more than that because it makes you look like an engineer and not an architect, which makes you lower paid and less likely to be hired. Now, I love engineers. Love them. But people don't want an engineer as an architect. They want an engineer to build it. They want an architect to design it. It's kind of like this. My two favorite animals in the world are the cat and the golden retriever. I love them both. If I wanted a dog, I would go buy a golden retriever tomorrow, and it would be the cutest puppy in the world, and I couldn't wait to bring it home. But I have a bad foot, so I can't walk very far. So I wanted a cat. Now I went to the cat rescue, rescued a cat, or she rescued me. I don't know what happened. Since I got the cat, I've been extra happy. But here's the key. I went to the cat store because I wanted a cat. If I wanted a dog, I would have gone to the dog store or the dog rescue instead of the cat rescue. So people hire what they want, and those are the skills that hiring managers want. And none of that stuff is covered in certification. But the certifications do help you get the interview. So now you know why we use them. Jay Dunn, first week as a student, is Friday's class different than Tuesdays and Thursdays? Very, very, very different, Jay. So normally on Tuesday and Thursday, we do architecture. Yes, Tuesday we did some architecture stuff. Thursday this week, we had a bit of a different course. I was going to do some things, and as soon as I went to teach the class, everybody had a ton of questions, so I answered a ton of questions. So that's not a normal day, but every once in a while, students have questions. They want to start figuring things out, and we do a couple of practice interviews. That's good, too. Today is going to be a leadership day, and today is going to be a fun one. And we're going to be talking in today's leadership thing about things that are going to help people get hired. So it's going to be a great class today. Can't wait to see you there. Helen of Troy. Oh, I love that. Me post Isa Alanis. And if you are, please let me know if you understood that. If you're not, then don't worry about it. So is Terraform a tool for an architect? No, it is not an architect tool. It is a tool for a DevOps engineer, not even a cloud developer, a DevOps engineer. So architects design, engineers build, and DevOps engineers automate. So Terraform is used to a degree by cloud engineers, but it's mostly used by DevOps engineers. But architects don't touch the technology, Helen of Troy. So we don't code, we don't configure, we don't use Terraform, we design. Design. So in design, there's no configuring, there's no management console, there's no CLI. And Helen of Troy, every once in a while, I always like to reach out to my architect buddies to try and find somebody to help teach more of my engineering class. And the reason is I love the way architects communicate. And every time I call an architect and say, hey, could you teach a class on how to set this up in the cloud? They're like, Mike, I don't touch the tech. I design it, present it, and sell it. And they say, I spend half of my time buying lunches, dinners, and drinks. So no, Terraform is a tool for a cloud engineer and a cloud developer. It is an amazingly good Amazingly good tool for efficiently deploying things. Terraform basically completely throws AWS CloudFormation in the trash because that's proprietary. Terraform can be used across all clouds. It's beautiful. I absolutely love it. I think HashiCorp made one of the best products in the world by enabling you to have a DevOps engineer write some code and literally deploy a total infrastructure across multiple clouds in minutes. Unbelievable, but it's not an architect thing. It's a DevOps engineer thing. Great question there, Helen of Troy. And if you're Greek, Yasu, Efaristo Nafis, Simra. Thank you for coming today. And if you're not Greek, that's okay too. But Helen of Troy, I always think Elenis. So Chris or Chal, if you want to bring in the next question. Des, from what you've seen, a solution architect looks like a senior role. It is. Would it be better to go for a cloud consultant role and with enough experience move to an architecture role? No. If you work as a cloud consultant, you'll be a cloud consultant. If you train to be an architect, you'll train to be an architect. And here's the thing. AWS is hiring our students every day of the week as their first job. They've got a title called Solutions Architect Associate. That is an entry-level cloud architect job. Now, it's still a good job, and in most cases, it's a good job, and it pays really, really well. But here's the thing. So, Das, okay, I'm going to be your airplane pilot. Take off and land. Oh, wait, I'm going to go work as a flight attendant for a decade. Do you want me to be your airplane pilot? No. You don't care. Hey, wait, and if you were a flight attendant for a decade and then you told your company, I want to be a pilot, they'd say, yeah, so you're a flight attendant. No, thank you. Because you'll be branded and you'll be typecast as that. So no, I don't think it's good to get a job in another career. I think it's good to get a job in your career, Dad. So train right. So I went to Israel on a martial arts tour many years ago. And as soon as I got there, they said, I've got advice for you. And I'm going to give you the advice because it was the best advice I've ever received. They said, Mike, I'm going to teach you 3 things to make your whole life change. And they said, the first thing we're going to tell you is you need to eat right, think right, and train right. And he said, the first thing I need you to do is eat right. And here's the reason why. If you don't eat right, you'll be unhealthy. If you're not healthy, you can't defend yourself. And okay. Then he said, think right. Now, this was the most critical thing. He said, if you think right, you'll be able to reason your way in and out of solutions and challenges and design things, and you'll never have to fight. And he says, train right, because if all else fails, you got to be able to defend yourself. And I loved all of those. So the key is train right. If you want to be a cloud architect, you train to be a cloud architect, and you do it. Now, I'm going to tell you this right now. No one can go with the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional, apply for a job as a cloud architect, and get it. No one ever. And that's why there's 500 hours of training in our cloud architect career development program, because that's what it takes to get hired. So the key is, if I'm going to be a doctor, I'm going to go to medical school. And I'm not going to say, hey, wait, maybe I'll be a nurse for a couple of years, and then a pharmacist for a couple of years, and then maybe a respiratory therapist, and then a paramedic. And oh, wait, maybe, hopefully somebody will consider me a doctor. No, they won't. And, Des, I know the certification providers like to tell you to get a million certifications and start at the bottom and spend a decade to get there. Des, my first job was a senior network engineer. Senior engineer. I didn't even touch the technology before. And that was technology that was about 1 million times more complicated than within 6 months, I was the lead architect at the world's largest internet service provider on the most critical team they had. So the point is, it's a better fit for you for train and get the job that you want, not somebody else's. Get the job you want and not somebody else's. If I get a job as a dog walker, do you think I'm going to be a better CEO? No, you're not going to take me seriously as a CEO. And what kind of cloud consulting can you do? An architect is a consulting role. What are you going to be doing? Consulting on their architecture? For that, you got to be an architect. What other kind of cloud consulting could you do? It's all going to be design. Or consulting where you can show someone the business benefits of the cloud for their business. How could you do that if you don't understand the cloud and you don't have the business acumen? So no, there is no such thing as a more junior role that makes you an architect. There are more junior roles that will teach you other people's jobs. And I'll tell you this, when I take a cloud engineer that's been an engineer for 10 years and they want to be a cloud architect, I need to give them the same cloud architect career development program. And here's the reason why. People don't want an engineer to be an architect. They want an architect to be an architect. If I applied for a cloud engineering job, they'd laugh at me. They'd say, Mike, you're an architect with 25 years experience. I need an engineer. And I'd say, 25 years ago, I was an engineer, and they'd say, yeah, Mike, 25 years ago, you were an engineer. You're an executive. You're an architect. Mike, I want you to do this. And that's the thing. And it's so much to the point of this. I have a friend that was a chief technology officer at one of the 10 biggest technology companies in the world. And in his retirement, he went and got certified to do some basic cloud engineering because he thought it was fun. And it took him about a year's worth of preparation to take that junior level job. But he did it because he loved tech and he didn't get to use it. He was an executive his whole life and he wanted to do it in retirement. But he needed special training to go from the chief technology officer to a baseline entry-level engineer because he just wanted to do it as fun. So no, train for your job, not somebody else's job. You do not need to start in different careers, get experience here, 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 and here to get to your career. Doctors don't go to school and work as nurses and flight attendants and dog walkers first. They become doctors. And trust me, it's a senior role. Lawyers become lawyers as their first job. Cloud architects can become cloud architects as their first job, like our students do every day of the week. So train for your career, not somebody else's career. Become an expert in somebody else's career, and you will not be an expert in your career. You won't know anything about your career. You know a lot about somebody else's career. So keep that in the back of your mind. So I hope that helps you. I always say, train for your career, not somebody else's career. But make sure you get the right training, because if you don't have the competency, you won't get hired for the career. So it's a matter about train right. Eat right, think right, train right. And you can have any job anywhere in the world that you want at any time. Just train right. Need a roadmap for what, Pete? Okay, cloud architect. Well, Pete, the most simple roadmap I have is our cloud architect career development program. But if you're looking for a roadmap beyond that, I'll tell you. What you need to learn is network and data center technologies and system design and business skills. So what is that? It is BGP. It is OSPF. It is NAT, one-to-one NAT, one-to-many NAT, static NAT, dynamic NAT, and all the use cases, not just out to the internet. It is switching. It is VLANs. It is VLAN tagging. It is spanning tree, rapid spanning tree, 802.1 key tracking, ISL type trunking, etc., etc. It is bundling of Ethernet things together, port channel, Ether channel, link aggregation groups that you need to understand on the networking side. How to work and how to design these things. It is IPsec VPNs. It is SSL VPNs. It is private lines. It is the way where direct connections work, Ethernet over MPLS, software-defined networking, and SASE. It is ARP. It is proxy ARP. It is DHCP. It is DNS. And you need about the equivalent of about 10 to 25,000 pages of reading in those things to be competent. After that, what else do you need to know? After that, you need to know the following. You need to know servers and server virtualization and how to design it. Containers and container orchestration and how to design that. It is VLANs and VLAN tagging and VLAN chunking. So containers and container orchestration. It is storage. So you got to learn storage area networks, whether it be block storage, object storage, and file storage. And what's covered in the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional is about 1% of that. So you're going to need to get that information from Dell, EMC, and IBM. Next, you need to understand file sharing protocols, such as NFS and server message block. Got to understand them in real depth. Load balancers in depth. Go to F5 and learn about the different types of load balancers, how they work, the load balancer algorithms, how to tune them, how to optimize them, etc., etc., etc. So beyond that, now we're in all kinds of great situations. So now we need to learn firewalls and firewall design and IDS, IPS system design and VPN concentrator design. There are some of the system design skills that you need to understand. I'd learn about how the Linux kernel works and the Linux architecture works, as well as all these other types of virtualization things. Then I would get an understanding of supply chain software, such as ERP systems, CRM systems, and what they can do for the business. Then I would start learning how to sell. I would learn executive communication skills, and I don't mean regular presentation skills, I mean executive ones. So if you're not with us, go take some special presentation skills training. Then you're going to have to learn how to do some ROI modeling. You're also going to need some CXO relevancy training. I've taken a lot of it, and it's not cheap. Although we do it in our training, it's included. So CXO relevancy training. What do you say to the CEO versus the CFO versus the CTO? Now, how do you interact with an intuitive CEO like me versus an analytical chief operating officer like Chris versus a functional person like somebody else on my team? So they're all executives as well, and you've got to know those personalities. So you got to know what the care-abouts of the executives are. Then you're going to be presenting at conferences of upwards of 5,000 people, and you will most likely be published. Like I'm an architect, and I was in about 30 magazine articles in the last 2 to 3 months. So these are the normal kind of things that we do. So the roadmap is that. Learn all of that. Then, get 2 certifications. And guess what? The certifications will not get you hired. They will not build your career, but they're going to look like good credentials. So get one of the 3. The AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional, the Azure Solution Architect Expert, or the Google Professional Cloud Architect, and then get yourself a networking certification or a security certification based upon what you want to do. And do that, and you should be good. Now, Pete, to do this on your own is going to be very long and expensive. To do it with us, it's about 4 months if you worked in tech to get your first cloud architect job, and about 8 months if you've never worked in tech to get your cloud architect job from what we're experiencing with our students. But that is the roadmap, exactly how to do it. Exactly how to do it. John Wick, good morning, Mike. It's good to see you, John Wick. Good morning, everyone. And do you need cloud certifications? And if so, what do you need to start with? Pete Wilson, I told you all the certifications. Pete Wilson, I got to tell you, I've got students getting hired by the cloud providers with 0 cloud certifications. 0. One of my students, Jeffrey West, recently got hired as a cloud architect and then passed the Certified Solution Architect Associate after that. Joe from my team didn't have any. So there are lots of people that I know. I know my friend Wade. I know all these people that have become cloud architects and then gotten certified later, but they usually have network, data center, and business acumen skills. So if you're going to get one, the most intro level cert that we can think of is the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional, and that's the one you need to start with. Now, somebody asked, we have an architect student that said, hey, should I study engineering and configuration and all that certification nonsense? Here's the answer. No, I want you to be an architect. And if you study all of that, you won't be an architect. You're going to be studying hands-on engineering. Hands-on engineering does not get people hired as architects. And that's why we created our program, because we've interviewed 1,000 people from those certification programs and none were hireable. So that's why we strongly don't recommend those programs. Kumar, can I tell you about the cloud engineering program? Sure. I don't know what you mean by its prospects, because for our programs, our end date is when somebody gets hired. So we're not about certification at all. Look, we provide certification training, but certification training is not going to build a career. So what's in our cloud engineering program? How to become a cloud engineer and how to get hired. That's all our cloud engineering program is. So what does that mean? We teach you how to become an engineer, which means we teach you how the systems work, why the systems work, how does one part of the system affect another part of the system. We get involved in the networking that you need, in the security that you need, and the hands-on skills in 2 to 3 different clouds like Azure and AWS. And yes, we'll get you training for both of them at the professional or solution architect expert level before both courses. Then you're going to be building. So you're going to be building all kinds of cloud stuff in multiple clouds. You're going to be building your own cloud from scratch in OpenStack in our program. You're going to learn Linux in depth because the cloud engineer is constantly on systems. And guess what all those systems are? All those systems are Linux. So we'll teach you Linux in depth. We'll teach you some Python scripting because there's that in these jobs. We'll teach you some Bash scripting because there's that in this job. And we'll teach you some Terraform because there's some of that in these roles as well. So the cloud engineering program has everything you need to get your first cloud engineer job. And guess what? We don't just do that. We include interview training, salary negotiation training, business acumen training, leadership training, emotional intelligence training, etc., 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 etc. So those are the kind of things that we talk about. And those are the kind of things that you do. So that's what we do in the cloud engineering program. We'd love to work with you. Our students are going to be wildly successful in that, just like the cloud architect career development program. You're more than welcome, Kumar. Class, which is the best MBA specialty for a cloud architect? Well, in reality, it doesn't matter, but the one I would tell you to do is management. None of those other ones, and here's why. Entrepreneurship really has nothing to do with that, and I would never deal in an MBA in entrepreneurship, and here's the reason why. The people that are teaching that are usually not entrepreneurs, and they don't know anything about it. Accounting is the exact opposite of everything we do. Accounting is counting beans. Where did the money go? We don't do any of that. We lead. Lead. So management is leadership. There is finance in what we do, but the leadership, the management ones provide enough financial modeling for us. So it's always going to be management, and never tech. And the reason we don't ever want tech is the following. They won't know enough in university to teach you the tech. So because of that, focus on leadership skills, meaning management. That's what we do. Analytics is a back-end role, like operations. And, kind of keep that in the back of your mind, what we're talking about. So which is the best MBA, specialty MBA? I would say management. I would get as generic as possible. I did a generic MBA in management for that reason. I had the opportunity to do 2 or 3 other concentrations at the same time, but I did not. I went generic leadership skills. That's what we're talking about. And it's a very great question, because now you're thinking. And I love this kind of thinking. So think about what the architect does. Most of what we need to do is pull in a team of engineers, lead the team. We need to build those relationships with the customer. We need to manage up inside of our organization and manage down. All management stuff. So personally, management is what I would train. It's what I've trained. And Chris, what's your MBA in if you're still on the call? And it might be child that's behind the scenes, and that's okay too. So the point being is, all of my team has MBAs, and most of them have it in management. Or most of my team, my executive team does. I didn't hire them because they had MBAs. I hired them because they were great. But they were partially great because they had some of those. The MBA did definitely help both of them. Okay, so if you've got some questions, please bring them in. We want to help you get to your goals. Fallon Jackson, after passing the Solution Architect Professional exam, what would be an expected time frame to get cloud hired? The answer is never. I'm going to tell you that right now. There is nothing in that certification that will ever get you cloud hired unless your goal is a very junior level implementation role, meaning a cloud admin, because there is nothing in that certification that's related to what we actually do. So I don't know what job you want. So if you tell me what job you actually desire, then I can tell you, but I can tell you right now, just having the Certified Solution Architect Professional, the Azure Solution Architect Expert, and the Google Professional Cloud Architect together will not get anybody a cloud architect job ever. Now, having the knowledge of the network, the knowledge of the data center, the knowledge of the technologies, the knowledge of the business applications, the communication skills, leadership skills, sales skills, emotional intelligence, executive presence, then you'll have your pick of jobs. And just do I take the $200,000 job or the $300,000 job a year out? It'll be that kind of decision. But there's nothing in this certification that will ever get anybody a job. And that's why I created this program, because all those people were taking those certification programs, they're getting multiple certifications, and they were writing on the internet, I can't get a job, I can't get a job, I can't get a job. Somebody please help me. And that's what we did. I was retired. I just made one video teaching people how to get a job, and within hours, I had so many requests, please help me, Mike. So I wasn't sure. So what I did is I took people that took those main 3 certification providers courses. I'm not going to mention their names. Somebody mentioned one of the names in the chat box. I interviewed 1,000 of them. Not a single one knew anything about cloud computing. Not one. Not a single one. So that's why we wrote our AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional book and gave it away free. That's why we do AWS Certified Solution Architect training each month, or every month, or every 3rd month, and we do it for free. That's what we did the AWS Advanced Networking and gave it away for free. That's what we did the CCNA and gave it away for free. We even did a Solution Architect Professional Bootcamp and gave it away for free. And guess what? Vote for your next free bootcamp, the Azure or Google Professional Cloud Architect one. And when we teach ours, we teach it more biased towards architecture versus engineering, because for engineers, they should learn engineering. Architects should learn architecture. Now that we're both an engineering and architecture company, we'll be teaching both when we do our certification program. But our stuff is biased towards hired versus certification. So please understand, I'm not trying to be mean. There's nothing in a certification that includes the name of a service and how to configure that. That's what architects do, because we don't configure any services. We design. And what do we design? Network and data center stuff. What do? We're taking all this stuff from the network and the data center and moving to the cloud, which is nothing more than another network and a data center that's been virtualized. The cloud's old technology. I've been working on the cloud since 1996. There's nothing new. It used to be frame relay, then ATM, ISDN, BGP, VPLS. It's been clouds forever. So the key is knowing what's necessary to solve the customer's problem with technology, and having those executive skills. So here's what certification is. I used to practice medicine. And the reason why I want to go through this in medicine, here's what happens in medicine. We have to learn about the body, our biology, our physiology, the study of disease, what our organs do, etc., etc. How to examine people, how to ask the right questions to make the right diagnosis. Then we learn all the right medications that can solve all the problems, how to dose those medications, and how to get our patients healthy. That's what we're taught in medicine. Now imagine if somebody came into the office and said, Mike, I got a yellow pill, a blue pill, and a green pill. The yellow pill is called the Elastic Cool service. The green pill is called the Elastic Cooler service. And the red pill is called the Elastic Coolest cloud-based service. And then they said, Mike, here's how you give these drugs. Just give the yellow one, the green one, or the red one. And that's the name of the service. And here's the dosages you give. But they didn't teach the doctor how to say, what's your problem, how to diagnose it. The doctor didn't know anything about your body. All they would know is, here's your 3 pills. Here, take the blue one, please. Take the green one, please. Why am I giving it to you? I have no idea. That's what the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional is. Here's your pill and how to configure it. Here's your pill and how to configure it. Here's your pill and how to configure it. But it doesn't tell you what the pills are. It doesn't tell you what the pills do. It doesn't tell you that this is a calcium channel blocker versus an alpha-adrenergic blocker, and these are the things that these things do in the system, and that's how to do it. The architect needs that knowledge. They must have it. So the architect needs to know all about the why, and the certification is all about the how. It's exactly the opposite of what we do. So for those reasons, and exactly for those reasons, certification will never get anybody hired for a cloud architect job. Now, it might be possible if you got the Certified Solution Architect Professional, the Azure Solution Architect Expert, the Google Professional Cloud Architect, and then you learned Terraform, and then you learned Linux, and then you learned Python, then you might be able to get a cloud engineering job that way. Might. I'm not sure, but might. But nobody will ever get a cloud architect job that way. So it's really important to know these things. And that's where we come along, so you know the job. If your job is design, present, and sell, and your whole curriculum is on a name of a proprietary service and how to configure it, and in many cases you can't even use those proprietary services, then you're in trouble. And here's the reason. So recently I interviewed a 6x AWS certified person. He called me, he booked one of the private $400 private interviews with me, which I try not to do. I try to tell people to take my tech interview mastery program because it's perfect and it costs less than a private session with me, and it's enough to get, in a lot of cases, really help people blow away the interview, get hired, and get paid a lot more. And my team can put a link for that as well in the course. It's very inexpensive, and it's a really great interview program. But understand that we're training people for the job. You have to be prepared for the job. And certification prepares you for somebody else's job. So I hope that makes sense. Michelle Watson, the CCNP generally requires a lot more than 2 exams. Typically speaking, there used to be 4. I think there's now 3 of them that you could do. But for a generic cloud architect, it depends on what you want to do and how long you want to be there, and it depends on your background. So Michelle, if I had a good tech background, I would do the CCNA. If I had no tech background, I would do the CCNP. And that's the reason is when you have less of a tech background, the certifications are really useful at helping you get an interview. Now, the Cisco Certified Network Professional is a good certification, and we love that one. And here's the reason why. The CCNP has really got some substance. So it does teach, you will learn OSPF in the CCNP. You will also learn BGP in the CCNP. You will learn ARP and proxy ARP, as well as DNS, as well as DHCP. You'll learn VLANs, VLAN tagging, and VLAN trunking. You really will, especially the design ones. You'll learn WAN technologies, which is really great. So there is so much in that CCNP that we absolutely, 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 absolutely love. And those are the reasons. So yes, I think the generic cloud architect could go with the CCNA or CCNP, but it depends more on your background. Personally, and I'm biased here because I love the network. I'm one of the original CCIEs that's out there, and I'm biased to the network. So I would say the CCNP, because having that will really make you stand out. But you can get away with no certifications if you're capable. So that makes sense. So I hope that makes sense for you. Sasa Malik, I tell people not to do any CompTIA certifications whatsoever. So I tell people not to do the A+, Net+, Security Plus, or any of them. And they're not bad certifications. They are not. So I want you to understand, what do certifications do? Certifications can help you get an interview, and they do nothing more than that. Now, when we look at certifications, we have to look at the certifications. What are we trying to put in the resume? So an A+, Net+, Security Plus, Terraform certification, or all these things mean hands-on stuff. Now, if we're dealing with an architect that wants to be an architect, that shows the person is everything other than an architect, so they're terrible. Now, if I have somebody that wants to do help desk or work at the Best Buy Geek Squad, that A+, Net+ is really good because they're designed for basic POC repair, $15 an hour Best Buy Geek Squad, $20 an hour, $15 to $20 an hour help desk kind of roles. That's what it's designed for. When you're just building an architect, you're building someone that's a digital transformation specialist. And entry-level stuff does not make anybody look like a good digital transformation specialist, ever. So it's not a waste of time for people in certain careers, but for the architecture career, it doesn't make sense. Hence the reason we don't want any hands-on certification for the architect people. We want design certification. So Cisco had the best architecture certification in the world, the Cisco Certified Design Expert. They still do. Somebody has that, and they can take their pick of jobs. They really can. Now, to do the CCDE certification, it will cost you $30,000 or $40,000. Probably do it by the time you're done buying and building and doing the exam. But that'll get somebody there. But that's like the CCIE, CCDE. They're the only certifications that I can tell you that really get somebody a really good job. And the only reason is they're so deep. And even in the CCIE exam here, design an environment where there are no type 3, 4, 5 LSAs that go into this area. They tell you that. Now, if you don't know what a type 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 LSA are, and you don't know what kind of areas are, you can't even design the system even to build it. So they're not going to ask certification questions. Hey, how do you configure this? It's not that. It's going to be application. So there's no such thing as a good or bad certification. There's a certification that is useful for the person at different points in their career. Architects should get their information and certification from one place. Here's where we get it: CIO Magazine, as well as hiring managers and recruiters. And they're almost always consistent with CIO Magazine. And here's the reason. The top of the company, you got the CEO that sets the strategy, right? Now, the CEO knows that IT is really important to them. So they hire another C-level executive officer called the Chief Information Officer. The Chief Information Officer sets the strategy for the tech for the company, who then hires a VP of IT, a director of IT, and then the baseline hiring manager. So the CIO is basically in charge of the entire technology department, so they sign our paycheck. So what certification should you do? In CIO Magazine, once a year, they tell you the good ones, the ones that they feel are beneficial for your career. And as a rule, it's the Certified Solution Architect Professional. It's the CCIE, the CCNP, sometimes the CCNA. It's the CISSP, the CISM, the CCSP. It's all the good cloud stuff. It's usually VMware is on there, which is another cloud-based data center certification. So they're typically the ones that are always there. It varies from year to year, and we vary our training and our recommendations based upon CIO Magazine, what recruiters are telling us, and what hiring managers are telling us. So, kind of keep that in the back of your mind. So it's not that anything is a waste of time. One of my students went on an architecture interview very recently, Saxum, and here's what they said to him. They said, which is a better firewall IDS system, this version or this version? My student was very smart. He says, there is no such thing as a better firewall. There are things that are better for certain applications and different applications. Could you give me the scenario that you're trying to solve, and then I can tell you which firewall will be right in this appropriate certification and the appropriate circumstances. And the hiring manager was so happy, they said to him, oh my God, that's what I was looking for. They said, I've interviewed 100 people so far, and everybody already made a decision without asking me my business requirements. He said, you're the first architect I've spoken to. Everybody had an engineered solution before even asking me my customer problems. And I said, yes, that's the problem. And that's why he liked my student. That's why my student might be getting a $90 an hour job. Even though he's 24 years old, and he's been working as a security architect for the last year because he took my cloud architect career development program, within 3 weeks was hired because he was really motivated, worked really hard. And then now is interviewing for the architect job because he took a security position because it paid him enough and he was happy to do it. He was just so excited to get a tech job. He had interviewed with 20 times before, and within 3 weeks of us, he had 3 offers. And he's been promoted multiple times, and now he's flirting with a $90 an hour job. And that's the key. We can all do well, but it's a matter of the right skills. And sometimes a certification is great for you at certain points in your career. And sometimes a certification is wrong for you at certain parts in your career. It's kind of like clothes. You know, if I wore this shirt to a board meeting, they'd laugh at me. I'd put on my Armani or my Canali suit. I'd make sure my hair was right. I'd wear the right shoes, the right tie. My belt and shoes would be polished because that's what's appropriate there. When I go to the beach, I'm not wearing an Armani suit. I'm going to wear a t-shirt and flip-flops and then maybe a bathing suit. That's it. That's what I'm going to wear. So architecture is about the right product, the right technology, the right product, the right service at the right time to solve the right business problem. So nothing is a waste of time. The key is what's appropriate for your career. So the question is, what certifications do I need? What knowledge do I need? What professional information do I need to get hired in my career, not somebody else's? Mastering configuration does not help an architect get hired, ever. Because if they're focusing on configuring, they're not focusing on design, leadership, sales, presentation skills. And in the process of learning somebody else's career, you become really horrible at your career. So which pilot do you want flying your airplane? The person that was in the Navy as a fighter pilot, left the Navy, went and got training, went to the best flight school, practiced and had 10,000 hours flight time on a simulator, and then another 30,000 hours of flight time flying an airplane. Now, you're in a plane, there's a massive thunderstorm, electric hits the plane and 2 engines fail. Who do you want? The person that's been an airplane pilot with 40,000 hours of pilot experience that comes from the military and only trained to be a pilot, or someone that trained to be a doctor first and then a lawyer and then just became a pilot, and they are educated beyond belief, but they're not a pilot and they have very limited experience. Now you're in that plane and that plane gets hit by lightning and 2 engines fails. Who do you want to solve the problem? The person that spent their whole life focused on being a pilot, or the person that said, I enjoyed my doctor thing, I enjoyed my lawyer thing. Hey, you know what? Hey, let's be a pilot. Well, I'm going to tell you one thing. That jack of all trades is not going to be my airplane pilot. I'm not getting in that plane with that person because I know he's a hobbyist. He's an enthusiast. He's a generalist. And when things fall apart, I don't want hobbyists. I want experts. So keep that in the back of your mind. Because I know, Saksham, you always want to ask the questions to go down into somebody else's career. Not right now, but you ask that a lot. If you want to be an engineer, it's different than if you want to be an architect. So make sure you know exactly which career you want and then focus on that career, not somebody else's, and that's how you get there. Well, I will tell you, the reason we created our course was because I interviewed 1,000 graduates from those programs and none of them were hireable. So I strongly don't recommend you do any of that. But it's up to you. I recommend that you get hands-on and you actually do the stuff that's in the program. For example, we've got about 30 AWS labs and about 30 Azure labs. I recommend you build your own cloud, for example, if you're going to take our program. I recommend you set up your own server virtualization and your own containers and you do some of the networking things. That's what I recommend you do. I can tell you that I can't hire any graduates from those programs. I can tell you that I have students that took those programs that used to send him messages on Slack, and he would pause their notifications after they said, I can't get a job. His first response is, tune your resume. His second response was as follows. Pause the notifications after the people couldn't get hired. So I've got all of his students and all the other certified people students, and we basically try to erase all those things they learned, start teaching it from scratch, and then our students are getting hired. So if your goal is to be a cloud admin and not an engineer or an architect, that stuff is good. But if your job is to be a professional, it's not good. And it's not that there's anything wrong with that training. It's that the training is designed for admin work. Name of a service, how to configure that service is great if you want to be a cloud admin. Now, if you want to be a cloud engineer, you need to know a whole lot of stuff outside the cloud, and it's not covered in there. And if you want to be an architect, we don't code or configure anything. So we need to focus on how it works, not what the stuff is. So Saksham, I'm going to tell you why I started this company. I started this company because I decided I was asked to train somebody, my friend's kid. And I said, look, I'll spend 2 to 4 hours with you per week and coach you. And then I said, here's the thing. I'm going to buy the person the 3 most popular courses. And I did. The kid called me back after 3 days and said, I set up an S3 buckets and an EC2 instance. What is it? I said, what do you mean, what is it? You're being lazy. Nobody would produce a course like this. I watched the courses in horror. I mean, I was horrified. Horrified. I'm not going to talk about anybody's course in general. Horrified. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind, that there's that. So you can study whatever you choose to study, but if you want to get hired and not just certified, I recommend you focus on architect things or engineer things and not admin things. Now, Saksha Malik, if you don't want to be an architect and you don't want to be an engineer and you just want to be a cloud admin, then sure, I recommend doing the certification approach. But if you want to be an engineer or an architect, I can't afford you to go think that way, because when you think that way, you're thinking differently than the architect. And if your thinking is not right as an architect, then let me tell you, you won't be getting hired as an architect. You won't be getting paid as an architect. You're just going to have lots and lots of hands-on technical skills that from somebody else's job and not your career. So my advice is, if you want to be an architect, train to be an architect. You want to be a doctor, go to medical school. Want to be a lawyer, go to law school. I don't recommend that you take training that's designed for something else, because it's going to make you an expert at something else. And you know what? If that airplane pilot spends the next 15 years as a Navy SEAL instead of an airplane pilot, I may hire that person as my bodyguard, but not my airplane pilot. So train for the job you want and not somebody else's, and you're going to have the most amazing career. Chris, you can go to the next one, or Chal, the next one. Drake, we have a price, and our price is available on our website. Harvard, Yale, IIT, Oxford, pricing is not negotiated. I'm also going to tell you something, Drake, that when we train students, they take 2 to 3 times the effort of somebody that's been working in the field. We don't charge our students 2 to 3 times more. We charge the same price. But if we were a smart business, we would charge students at least 2 to 3 times more, because they take that much work. Because a college student doesn't have any of the business acumen, the leadership skills, the sales skills, executive presence, et cetera, or the technology knowledge. So we have to teach those skills. So no, our prices are on our website. Our prices are not negotiable. We are a professional organization, and it's not like a name your own price kind of thing, but we don't discount anything for students. We picked a price that we think would work everywhere. Our course is worth approximately $50,000 US. I don't need to work, so this is my gift to the world. Chris is doing this to help the world. Chal is doing this to help the world. Leo's doing this to help the world, and the rest of my team is doing it to help the world. If we weren't doing this for help, to help people, I would instantly change my business model. I'd start running Facebook ads, Instagram ads, LinkedIn ads, and I'd charge $50,000 for the course. People at Cisco and AWS and Azure, they call me and they say, why aren't you charging $50,000 for the results you're delivering? And I say, because I want to make sure that anyone, anywhere in the world can afford my training. And that's why I picked a price that could be paid for by anyone, anywhere in the world. But no, our prices are on the website. Great question, though. And I wish it wasn't that students were so much more work. But we have, the more life experience you have, the more wisdom you have, the easier it is to make you as an architect. So as an architect, they're looking for more wisdom than hands-on skills. Starting the MBA before your start interview? Not sure. So what's going to get you hired is skills. Now, what I do like about starting the MBA is as follows. You can say MBA in progress on your resume, which will help you get more interviews, which would be good. But Klaus, the issue is not getting interviews. I've got students without a college degree that can manage to get 20 interview requests per day from the right LinkedIn profile without degrees. But the key is they've got the right profile. So what I suggest is you focus on building the best skills you possibly can. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. That is what's going to get you to your goal. So the MBA, I love it. In fact, I worked with this kid many years ago, and he was a little clumsy. He was an associate systems engineer program. He was a really, really nice guy. And I remember thinking that I could get him to his goal. And I remember the first time I met with him, and he had a master's degree in technology. He was wearing like a lime green shirt and yellow socks and weird tan pants. And we sat and I bought him dinner in Raleigh one time, and I met the guy and I was so blown away. I really loved the guy. Strong, smart, capable, but he just needed guidance. And I met with him, a buddy of mine met with him, and I agreed to coach the guy. And I said to him, I said, here's the things we need to do. I said, first, we're going to swap those lime green things for a blue suit, black suit, or a charcoal gray suit. I then said, when you communicate, you're going to say it this way, or this way, and not this way. I said, I want you to roll in an MBA program and put down MBA in progress in your resume. 3 months later, he was promoted. So what was it? It was a combination between the gravitas, the communication skills, and the appearance. Now remember this, Klaus. When we communicate, 55% of our communication is what we see. 38% is what we sound like, and 7% is the actual content. So when I was able to work with him on that, I was able to really maximize what we were able to actually do. Deliver better results, better, faster, and cheaper in more innovative ways. So he did great. So the key is starting an MBA. I strongly encourage you to do so. I think it is wonderful. I will always recommend Masters in Business because it really builds your portfolio. It builds your resume, and it will give you some business acumen skills. And I love it, love it, love it. That is also architect training, and I consider that to be excellent architect training, and I strongly recommend it. But whether you started before or not, doesn't matter. But it might help you get an interview. So Klaus, I want you to make sure that your skills are perfect before you try to get that interview. So when you get the interview, you get hired. So get your skills right, then go on the interview. And if you start the MBA before or after that, that's what matters. Be properly trained. It's not hard to get a job on an interview. You know, it's so easy if you're competent. I've only interviewed 5 times in my life, and I've gotten hired every single time. The thing is I was competent, but I also knew what hiring managers wanted: the leadership, the sales, the emotional intelligence, communication, honesty, integrity, that kind of thing. So know what the hiring manager wants, and you will get hired. So thank you so much for your question. I only have about 5 more minutes today. We have to close at 10:45 today. So if anybody has a last question, please let me know. Farouk Azam, can you highlight what you cover in our Cloud Architect course? Yes. Everything you need to know to be hired, and you should be hired upon graduation. So what will you learn once you finish it? Well, you'll be learning the network and the data center concepts that are necessary to do the job. You'll be learning the cloud concepts on multiple clouds. You will learn how to design a cloud architecture, cloud migrations, the cloud networking, and everything necessary to do the job. So after we teach you the networking and the cloud and the data center things that are necessary from the technical perspective, we'll teach you the leadership skills necessary, the design skills necessary, the presentation skills necessary, the sales skills necessary, the business acumen that's necessary, the leadership skills that are necessary, the CXO relevancy that's training, the communication skills training, the presentation skills training, the resume improvement training, the salary negotiation training, and even the interview training. Additionally, you'll be working in your career planning to make sure you've got a long-term, highly successful career. You'll be designing and building your own clouds, and you'll learn everything that's necessary to do it. So how do we do it? Well, we have 3 live 2-hour architecture classes per week. And in 2 of those classes, we design architectures. On Tuesday, for example, we designed a very basic architecture, but because we tried to keep it very simple. On Thursday, by comparison, yesterday we had a lot of questions. We worked over some things, and then I did some interviews with my students. Today, in our leadership course, which is the Friday of the week, we're going to be doing something on communicating in technology. And here's the reason we're going to focus so heavily on this. On your interview, you could know everything, but if you can't communicate it, the hiring manager won't hire you anyway. So that's the key. So we're going to teach our students how to communicate that they are an architect so that people see them as an architect. See, if it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, and talks like a duck, it's mostly a duck. And it has to be a duck. So we have to make everybody a duck. So we have no prerequisites to the program. You can come in. We will teach you everything you need to know. So by the time you graduate, you will be a hands-on design, but a capable, employable, and should be a cloud architect, because that's what we do. We do it every day. We've got students that are getting hired almost every day, or even every day, and sometimes multiple times per day, every day. So we can do it for you too. That's what you'll learn, how to do the job and how to get hired. Any security concepts in the cloud security? Yeah, we pretty much cover a whole CISSP's level of security depth in the cloud engineering and cloud architecture program. So yes, we get heavy heavy into security. About 10 times deeper than the AWS Advanced Security. I would consider that to be not even an intro to an intro, to an intro to an intro to an intro to an intro to a junior level security that we cover in a single class. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Lots and lots of security. For work, we can't wait to work with you. And we can't wait when you tell me you're cloud hired either. No prerequisites class. And here's the reason. We know that unless you're a network architect, a data center architect, or an enterprise architect, you don't have the skills. Now, so we're not software engineers, we're not configurers, we're not coders. So we assume in most cases when we take on people, they need to be completely trained from the start. And we've got engineers coming in, we've got to teach them a new set of skills because we need to think in design terms versus building terms. So those are the kind of things that we do, and there's no prerequisites because we take everybody starting at ground zero and build the deepest fundamentals. Do you know what an expert is? It's someone that's a master of the fundamentals. So that's what we do, and that's why we are so successful at getting our students hired. I must close the session down today. I would love to hang out a lot longer, but business meetings and other critical things keep me from staying a little longer today. So you can give me a like if you had a good time, if you can subscribe and hit the bell. Tell some friends about what we do, all the free training that we're out there. And don't forget on Thursday, join me in the completely free how to get your first cloud architect or cloud job webinar. We will tell you everything you need to get hired. On this webinar, we will teach you how to leverage your life experience, the things that hiring managers are looking for, the things that need to be on your resume, the certifications that are going to make your resume look good, the knowledge and things that you get, and of course, how to get cloud hired. So it's been nice speaking with you all today, and I can't wait to speak to you very soon. Take care, everybody.